The arena was alive with light. Golden beams cascaded across a sea of faces, and the air trembled with excitement. The music swelled, and then a name echoed through the vast space, carried by the voice of the host and the heartbeat of an entire nation. Nicaragua! The crowd erupted in thunderous applause. Flags waved in a sea of red, white, and blue. The cameras panned across the audience. Proud Nicaraguans with tears in their eyes, shouting, cheering, some even praying. And from behind the glowing stage curtains, she appeared, Shan Palos. Every step she took shimmered with purpose. Every movement was measured, elegant, and alive with confidence. As she walked onto the stage, the spotlight captured her like a scene from a dream. Her costume, an extraordinary masterpiece, drew gasps from everyone watching. It was not just fashion, it was a story, a living tribute to her homeland. She wore a tight-fitting leotard, meticulously decorated with thousands of tiny crystals that reflected every flicker of light in the arena. Behind her stretched two immense gleaming wings, layered in gold and emerald feathers. At their base, a long plume cascaded down her back, moving with the rhythm of her steps. Powerful, yet graceful, and there it was. Her tail, a breathtaking piece, adorned with thousands of hand-placed crystals, each one catching the light and scattering it into 1,000 fragments of brilliance. The entire outfit shimmered, like the tropical sun reflecting on the Caribbean Sea. It was not just a costume. It was art, culture, and pride woven into a single breathtaking vision. It spoke of Nicaragua, of its forests, its freedom, its fiery spirit, and of the strength of a woman unafraid to carry her nation's heart on her shoulders. The audience gasped, then applauded so loudly that the music itself seemed to pause for her. She stood there, radiant, poised, her chin lifted proudly as the feathers danced around her. Someone in the crowd shouted, "Vamos, Nicaragua!" And Shan smiled. As she moved across the stage, the commentators' voices filled the airwaves. They described every part of her costume. How the plumes symbolized the native birds of Central America. How the crystals were inspired by the country's volcanic gemstones. Every detail was deliberate. A representation of beauty rooted in heritage. Dressing like this was no easy task. It required balance, patience, and incredible control. Yet Shan made it look effortless. She moved with the grace of someone who had practiced every step 1,000 times. Not for fame, but for love. Love for her country. And as she bowed at the end of her presentation, she closed her eyes for a brief second and whispered something only she could hear. "For you, Nicaragua." When the lights dimmed and the costume segment ended, Shan retreated backstage, her team rushing to help her change. Between the chaos and excitement, a reporter asked her a question. "How does it feel to be representing Nicaragua tonight?" Shan smiled, breathless but composed. "It's surreal," she said softly. "I grew up watching Miss Universe with my family. I admired women like Andrea Meza, who showed me that grace and strength can coexist. The day I met her, I was so nervous I couldn't even speak. I was shaking. But tonight," she looked toward the glowing stage. "Tonight, I hope I can inspire someone the way she inspired me." That single line, caught by cameras, would later spread across social media. A moment of authenticity that made people fall in love with her even more. The show continued, the competition tightening like a heartbeat before a race. Each name that was called brought screams of joy and sighs of heartbreak from fans around the world. And then came the moment, the top 5 finalists. The host's voice boomed through the speakers. Next up, Nicaragua. The crowd went wild again. Shan clasped her hands together, her lips trembling between prayer and disbelief. She stepped forward under the golden lights, a mix of gratitude and courage painted across her face. She reached into a bowl and chose a card. Committee member Ajav 1. Hala Iden. The question was direct but profound. What qualities and values guide you as a leader and role model for others? Shan took a moment to breathe. Her fingers trembled slightly around the microphone. The room was silent. Thousands of eyes, millions of viewers, all waiting for her to speak. Then she began, her voice steady and warm. The quality that has inspired me and has inspired millions of women and girls is humility, to be able to appreciate the small things. Because that's where the real beauty of life lies. The essence of being human is in gratitude, kindness, and humility. The audience erupted in applause. Some stood, some cried. It wasn't a rehearsed answer. It was the truth spoken from a heart that knew what it meant to fight for dreams. Minutes later, the music grew tense. Lights flickered. The host stepped forward with an envelope. Thailand, Australia, Nicaragua. The arena exploded again. Shan gasped, covering her face as tears filled her eyes. She took her place beside the two other finalists, her smile trembling between disbelief and pure joy. She was one step away from history. And then came the final question, the one that would define the next Miss Universe. If you could live 1 year in another woman's shoes, who would you choose and why? The audience leaned forward. Shan's expression softened. She thought for a moment before answering, not with nerves, but with conviction. I would choose Mary Wollstonecraft because she opened the door for women. She gave them the opportunity to think freely, to dream, to learn, and to lead. What I would do is continue her legacy, to ensure that the income gap continues to close, so that women and men can work wherever they choose, without limitations, because true equality means true freedom for everyone. Her voice carried through the arena, calm yet powerful. The applause that followed was thunderous, long, heartfelt, unstoppable. The lights dimmed, the music softened. The two finalists, Thailand and Nicaragua, stood at the center of the stage, holding hands tightly, their smiles trembling. The host's voice grew low and serious. One of you will represent women across the world in your role as Miss Universe. If for any reason the winner is unable to fulfill her duties, the first runner-up will take her place. This is it. The crowd held its breath. Cameras zoomed in on their faces. Nervous smiles, glistening eyes, hearts pounding. Then the envelope was opened. A pause. A single heartbeat of silence that seemed to last forever. The new Miss Universe is Nicaragua. The arena exploded into chaos and joy. Fans screamed. Flags waved. Tears streamed down faces in the crowd. Shan gasped, both hands covering her face in shock. She stood frozen, trembling, as the crown was lifted and placed gently on her head. The glittering diamonds reflected her tears. Tears of disbelief, gratitude, and pure happiness. The announcer's voice rose above the cheering. Listen to the room for Nicaragua. She turned toward the crowd, clutching her flag, overwhelmed. Her smile was radiant, her soul visibly glowing. Cameras captured every second. Her trembling lips, her shaking hands, the tears of pride that refused to stop. The host gestured toward the runway. Please take your first walk as Miss Universe. And she did. The music swelled. Golden confetti fell from above like rain. Shan took her first step forward, the most important step of her life. Each stride down that glittering runway was filled with meaning. The years of hard work, the sacrifices, the tears, the sleepless nights, the dreams whispered to herself in the dark. All of it had led to this moment. She lifted the Nicaraguan flag high, the crown shining above her, the lights dancing in her tears. The crowd chanted her country's name again and again. Nicaragua! 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 It was not just her victory. It was the victory of every little girl who had ever dared to dream in a small corner of the world. That night, Shan Palos didn't just win a crown. She made history, becoming the first Miss Universe from Nicaragua and the face of a new era of beauty, courage, and grace. And as she reached the end of the stage and turned back one last time, her crown glinting under the lights, she whispered the same words she had spoken to herself before the show began. For you, Nicaragua,